We've made countless mistakes when it comes to socializing our reactive Maltipoo. I'm Julia and this is Rosco, our Maltipoo. Today I'm going to react to some footage taken last spring when we introduced Rosco to our neighbor's dog. And I'm going to share my thoughts about why the method we took to introduce the two dogs was flawed and how we could have done better. I'm not claiming to be a training expert, but we have learned a lot about socialization since Rosco met this dog. So if you have a dog that's triggered by other dogs similar to Rosco, hopefully you can take away something from this video. Also, I have a cold, so if my voice sounds a bit raspy, I apologize for that. So first, to give you some background, Rosco is almost 2 years old. His birthday is in a couple weeks. We got him right before quarantine in January 2020, and when we got him, we didn't understand the real importance of socialization. So we didn't make socialization a priority, and then when we were in lockdown, we gave it absolutely no effort, and we kind of missed the prime window. The last thing my family ever wanted was that yappy, small dog that lashes out on walks. And what do you know, we ended up with one. He's very vocal, and he goes out of control whenever he sees one. So over the past year, we've tried and tried to socialize Rosco, but we found it super difficult. And this is partly because we've had trouble identifying his behavior. Is it playful, aggressive, or just reactive? Does this spark from a fear of dogs, or is he just not familiar with them yet? Will he lash out and be nippy towards other dogs? We don't want to risk any safety issues. A video is coming soon where we meet with an actual trainer and talk about some of these issues and kind of identify Rosco's behavior. In the meantime, I walk my neighbor's dog, and I had her permission to introduce her to Rosco, and so I thought maybe this was a good opportunity to do some socialization. So one day I just took her over to my house before she went on her normal walk, and she met Rosco. So basically how this worked is I handled the neighbor's dog, her name is BB, while my dog handled Rosco. So the first flaw in our little plan was the location of where the dogs were meeting. From what I've learned, in an ideal situation you want to have your dogs in a neutral place, but we had BB meet Rosco at our house, and we haven't really seen that Rosco's territorial, but if we had met at a neutral place, it just would have erased any of those issues. Another thing is, right before this, I'm not sure if Rosco was properly exercised, and since he had so much energy, I think that could have played a part in how you'll see he reacts shortly. So I brought BB over, and right away we kind of had the two dogs meet and touch noses. We had Rosco on a long leash, and my dad just kind of like let Rosco go up and sniff BB right off the bat. And our plan was to reinforce Rosco when he was gentle and when he paid attention to us, that kind of thing. But this comes to a major flaw in that we were giving Rosco too much control, too little distance, and too soon. So Rosco hadn't even had a time to kind of process what was going on before he was up there with the other dogs sniffing her nose. And allowing him to go up and greet this dog this way kind of encouraged him to pull on the leash and ignore us. So I definitely think that this was not the right approach from the beginning. So we did acknowledge that it was getting a little bit too crazy. Rosco was barking a lot and he was just very overly stimulated. And so my dad sat him down on his lap and told him to settle down.
Yeah, good job.
No.
Good girl, baby.
One problem with this is Rosco tends to get even more energetic and more excited when he's restrained. Also, BB was really close by, and so Rosco kept wanting to go up and kind of check her out. I think the whole situation was just very triggering for him, as you can tell by his little high-pitched yips. Whenever he gives those yips, I think that he's just over his edge.
And BB wags her tail every time. Yes.
And when he's worked up this much, I really don't think it's a good idea to go let him sniff another dog. So in my opinion, here's the approach we should have taken at this beginning stage. So first of all, the most important thing I think you can take out of this video is distance. So I've heard like Zach George talk a lot about this. He's a dog trainer on YouTube, and from the training class we go to every Monday night. So what we should have done is had Rosco and BB at opposite ends of the yard, basically, because the more distance, the more easily Rosco can pay attention to us while we're training him. So once we had established the distance, probably a good thing to do would have been to practice some loose leash walking around the yard. This way he would grow more relaxed as time went on and learn to be okay with another dog in his presence. I also think that for the first meeting, we should not have let Rosco interact with BB at all. So the next thing we did was actually create distance. Once again, we recognized Rosco was getting a bit too riled up, so my dad took Rosco across the yard just to get Rosco's focus back on him. So as my dad was practicing heel and I was walking around the yard with BB, then we kind of got closer to one another. And since Rosco was paying attention to my dad and heeling successfully, as a reward for that behavior, my dad gave Rosco the "it's okay" command. And basically that meant he could just run free and go meet BB. And so as you'll see, Rosco runs up to BB while on the leash, he's pulling. But what happens next, as you'll see, as Rosco kind of comes at BB, not necessarily nipping or in an aggressive way, but he's out of control nevertheless. And then my dad kind of draws him back, realizing what Rosco just did, and the training session kind of comes to a halt. And so after this happened, my dad and I were just beating ourselves up about how we turned this great opportunity to train Rosco and get him used to another dog into a negative experience for him. But really, it was both of our faults because we basically handed Rosco the wheel and let him go up to BB and without teaching him how to properly greet her. And one of the key things to notice here is Rosco wasn't ready for it. He was still unable to heel really close by to her. He was still pulling and he was still occasionally barking. We should have waited until he could heel a couple feet away from her just fine. That's how we would know that he's ready for meeting her full on. So I can sum this up in 3 points. We allowed Rosco too much freedom, we needed to create more distance between the two dogs, and we moved too fast for Rosco to adjust. So this first meeting was kind of a flop, but we did learn a lot from it, and we fixed some of our mistakes the next time they met. So the next time I brought BB over to our lawn, we started way away from each other and we were more prepared this time. My dad already had Rosco in a settle down and was reinforcing him with treats. He basically just sat there while I walked around with BB. Next, my dad gave Rosco a chance to walk around the yard a little bit and practiced loose leash walking.
Sorry, it's hard to keep her still. That's a little too close, too close, too close.
Whenever Rosco started lunging at BB, he would increase the distance between them.
Okay, go wider.
And this seemed to work really well. Rosco gradually settled down and BB became less interesting to him. So my dad continued to walk with Rosco around the yard for a while. And then he brought him into a settle down again.
They're actually pretty close together and he's still settling down, which is awesome. Do you think he's jealous? So we've been just decreasing the distance that we've been apart, which is working really well because it's given Rosco a chance to calm down. The moment we get too close, he just kind of freaks out. So he can only heel when they're really far apart, which is what we've been focusing on.
Rosco still got excited about BB from time to time, but there was vast improvement from the last time they met. So at this point, we felt like it was time for Rosco and BB to go for a walk together. We weren't sure how it was gonna go, but we thought it would be a great way to have Rosco really practice his heeling skills. The main thing we focused on was maintaining that distance between the two dogs, and as we walked along, Rosco responded really well to the situation. He grew less reactive, and we were able to increase the distance between Rosco and BB. At one point during the walk, we came to this little grassy area, and Rosco lost enough interest in BB to sniff around and check out his environment.
What I love is we now have a comparison of the first time approach and the second time approach, like distance.
I was over the moon about this. It's so rare that we see Rosco relaxed around another dog. Then we also had the two dogs settle down together in that grassy grove, and Rosco made massive improvements from the last time that he settled down. You could see that he wasn't trying to get at BB, he wasn't barking a lot, he was actually settled down. So the walk ended super positively. The two dogs were able to walk really close to each other. As you could see, we really shortened the distance between them over the course of the walk. We never allowed Rosco to actually come in contact with BB. I think this walk was a great experience for Rosco and BB as well. So the dogs haven't met since those two times, but all the same, I'm happy that we gave Rosco even that little bit of exposure. So now I want to compare the first greeting and the second greeting and explain why I think the two were so dramatically different. The first time Rosco was out of control, he was barking, and he was lashing out almost the entire time, and it ended in a negative way. The second time Rosco showed more respect for us and he was overall more composed. The second time we actually observed Rosco's behavior, and when he started to lash out, we didn't just let him lash out. We created more distance. We enforced look at me. We practiced loose leash walking. We were in more control of Rosco, and I think he actually appreciated that it made him feel more secure with another dog around. The interesting thing is the first time he actually met BB. The second time he never came in contact with her. I think that goes to show that you need to move at your dog's pace. Don't rush into things, you have to be patient. And I think it also goes to show that your dog doesn't necessarily have to come into physical contact with another dog for the experience to be a good one. So now, how we're applying what we learned. So we met with a dog trainer, as I mentioned before, to kind of assess Rosco's behavior and what we're doing for socialization and understand the next steps to take to curb his reactivity. We enrolled in a training class to help with Rosco's behavior with other dogs and give him positive exposure. That has been one of the best things we've ever done for him. There will be videos to come on that topic. And another way we're applying what we learned is training around dogs, not having him meet dogs, because he's not ready to meet dogs just yet. As you can probably tell from my voice, that was a lot of talking. Rosco's made me super passionate about training and socialization when it comes to dogs, and I get so excited when I get to share it with other people. I think it's really cool to look back on mistakes you've made and see ways that you've improved. Raising a dog is all about kind of learning as you go along. So that's all for today's video. I really hope that you enjoyed it. At first, I didn't plan to do anything with this footage, but as I looked back on it, I thought there was something valuable to be shared. Anyways, thanks for sticking around to the end. I wish you the best of luck with your training and socialization. If you liked this video and you'd like to see more socialization videos, please give this video a thumbs up. Rosco and I will see you in the next video. Bye! It's okay.